Jordan intros again.
Oh, hey there. This is the 4th episode of 3 a.m. Your host, Jordan.
My name is Charlie.
My name is DJ.
I'm Sean.
That's Sean.
That's what I said.
How y'all doing today?
Out there in listener world, podcast land. Thanks for tuning in. We're happy to have you. We have a handful of stories to share. Anybody want to start off?
I'm not feeling compelled yet.
There's so many trash stories online. They're just so bad. And then the comments of people are like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I'm like, what?
Standards are very low.
So bad. Okay, have you guys thought about the scariest scenario?
So like
a
your
horror,
scariest
yeah,
scenario?
Like a horror situation, whether it's a serial killer or it's like a monster or vampire or something. Do you know what's your your kryptonite? You're like, oh, I'm screwed when this is happening.
So what are you most afraid of?
Yeah, but not necessarily that. It's more like a horror situation that's already been put in place, something that terrifies you.
So what's yours?
I don't know. I just thought of it right now, so I wanted to ask it. Because I probably have a lot.
I think the scenario that would scare me the most is undeniable demonic possession. I'd be like, damn it, I don't want to deal with this.
Like the superpower strength and like
someone starts
Latin.
Speaking Latin, and I'll just be like, I'm like, ugh, this is too much. I think that'd be mine.
I think for me it'd be like Wrong Turn or Hills Have Eyes. Just like driving alone or with your family out there camping and just some rednecks just start eating your family in front of you and they save you for last. And then they kidnap you and use you for reproduction. That'd be horrible.
I think I'd have to agree with Charles. Just a demonic. That's like otherworldly. It's just something we don't understand. So, if it was like a serial killer, somebody trying to physically hurt you, or at least, you could try to fight back, but if somebody starts floating and throwing fire, PK fire at you, I'd just run towards the fire.
So it's like with a human, you're playing on the same rules, but it's the second you're not playing on the same rules, I'm not down. So like aliens, it's like, okay, who knows what they can do? I also agree with Jordan in that, how do I politically correctly say?
Rednecks? Bro, it's
the
you
rural,
can't be racist towards white
Caucasian.
people. You're fine, dude. The rural Caucasian, bro. That backyard, freaking backwoods white boy.
Yeah, like in Django Unchained, towards the end, there's those white trash dudes deep in the woods with their dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And they let their dogs loose to go eat one of the slaves. Those are the people you're talking about.
Yeah, that's my worst. That's like my worst nightmare.
Yeah, but also like I feel like Hills Have Eyes is like a step further
because they're
like,
mutants.
Yeah,
type.
Like mutants. They have like weird extra strength because of their mental capacity.
Inbredness. I know what you're saying, dog.
Inbredness, like the dude in Men in...
That was an impressively way to put that. I got to be honest.
The first Men in Black.
Retard strength.
The dude who's like more sugar in his water.
Yes.
Yeah. He goes.
More.
Sugar.
Just wearing overalls.
More.
Plus,
he
was terrifying to me because my least favorite thing besides mayonnaise is cockroaches.
Dude, yeah, those are valid.
I
horrible
hate
things.
cockroaches. So when he has them crawling out of his every witch hole on his body, I just want to gag and choke on my vomit and just die.
One time my cousin was lying in his bed and he's trying to fall asleep and he kept hearing this noise from the vent above his head, and he was staring at this vent and he could hear this like coming from the vent. And as he's staring at it, a fatty cockroach comes through the grate and falls on him on the bed, and he screamed and jumped out.
I would have jumped out of my window, regardless of how high I was.
Growing up, my grandpa, after he and my grandma divorced, I Right?
Just kidding. I'm sorry.
I would stay with him sometimes. He lived on the town side of the island. He had a roommate. Now that I think about it, that's weird. Like 60 years old.
I mean, if you got to pay rent, though, you got to pay rent.
Yeah, but this dude had his own separate room. And I remember he walked out one morning with this huge bulge on his head. And I was 4 years old. 3, 4, 5 years old. I remember asking my grandpa, I was like, Papa, what happened to him? Like, did he get mugged or something? And apparently, a fatty centipede bit him while he was sleeping.
Oh.
Just like on the forehead. So you see those videos where like those Japanese people get those surgeries,
Yes.
those aesthetic
They get
surgeries
like
and
a
put like a donut,
saline donut.
saline donut
Yeah.
on their forehead. That's what it looked like. But from a centipede.
Oh,
That's
man.
disgusting too.
Centipedes are like the only bad thing about Hawaii. And my other friend from Hawaii said they'll like hang over like door stops and stuff and like
Yes.
fall on you.
Yes.
Oh, they know, dude. Going back to cockroaches, my world was blown. When I was living in the Philippines, I didn't realize cockroaches can fly because they don't apparently in the States or the lower 48 at least,
They do in Hawaii as well.
Do
so.
they? It's wild because I saw cockroaches in California, but they weren't like flying around. So I'm in the Philippines. I've lived there for like at least 8 months by this time. So I've been there for a good amount of time. I'm going up. There's a cockroach, just kind of a big A cockroach, just in our room on the wall. I approach it, very quietly and cautiously because I'm going to get this dude, right? Not going to kill it because I have respect for God's creations. I'm going to just get it out of there. Just get away from here. Go to touch it. It just flies straight at my face. And at that moment, like, I did not think it was like a cat flying. Like, I did not think it was physically possible for cockroaches to fly. And this, like, 6-inch cockroach just flew right at my face, and I screamed.
That's a terrifying thing, too. We had them in Hawaii. So growing up, we would see them. But they don't just fly. They fly at people.
Yeah.
Like they have a personal vendetta, and they have nothing to lose.
Just hella bitter, salty
That's
roaches.
The scariest type of creature, person, when they have nothing to lose. That's probably why you're afraid of white trash, deep backwood people.
They're cockroaches. No, but like when someone or something has nothing to lose, like have you ever had a cat actually angry at you and it starts like hissing, wanting to go? You know what I'm saying?
Like make love to you or like attack you?
Either way, terrifying.
okay.
But I'm saying attack.
Yeah.
Actually trying to. Have you ever had something do that to you?
I don't know.
A cat? I can't remember. Not one enough for me
It's
to remember.
Terrifying. And you think you're big, and then right when the thing comes at you, dude, you just start running.
You're the smallest
Yeah,
thing.
you're like,
Same with the cockroach.
get out of here.
No.
The cockroach
Tiny
is the
ins-
size of your toe and you're running away from it.
Yeah. You just shrink down to their size, and you're like, this thing owns me.
We should see, this is very off topic, but we should see Pet Sematary on Tuesday.
I'm so down. I need to see a good movie. Actually, I was going to see
It's
if I could.
supposed to be good.
What did you guys think of Us?
I liked it. I like how it tied up, and I can't give away anything because Charles hasn't seen it yet, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't super scary, but if that would have happened to you, that would be scary.
I remember this was a few years ago, and we were just exploring up in the mountains. Somebody asked the question, what's the most terrifying sound? What sound
Oh.
could be made that would freak you out? For me, I don't know where this came from, but the sound that I always thought of was like this guttural, low voice. I've always like pictured it in my head and in my mind, but I've never heard it anywhere until the movie Us.
Have you not seen The Grudge?
That one's a little different.
Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you. But
that-
it's like
It's kind of it's like on the same playing field, I feel like, but
not quite as intense or as deep as.
you can see from the trailer there's doppelgangers. And when the main doppelganger speaks, that voice, I was like, that's the creepiest sound that I've envisioned in my head for years, and this is great. Also, not great.
I have a kind of a story along with that. So there's a movie, Amityville Horror, like the original.
Not the one that came out in the 2000s.
No. So the Amityville Horror, If you don't know what it's about, look it up. I'm not going to explain it. In the first one, the dad gets possessed. Number 2, the son gets possessed, and he's the one who kills his whole family.
Same family?
I don't know. So what it is as he's walking around, he's always wearing his headset, and he's like listening to his cassettes. And at first it's music, and he's just kind of like a disconnected teen. But then the music starts saying things, and he starts listening. And by the end, the music is full on like, kill your family, like go in and kill them. And he's just listening to this cassette like at the family dinner and stuff like that. And that terrified me. I saw that when I was like 10.
Oh, so Momo.
KS Momo.
Momo is, if you've seen pictures of her, she has huge
Oh,
eyes
I've
and
seen
like
that. Trash.
the weird cutout smile, and she tells children to either commit suicide or harm or hurt, even kill others. So
Where does this Momo reside?
In all of us.
in all of us, we are Momo.
No, it's just like a meme on the internet to scare kids. It's like, meh.
I thought it was one of those like underground like YouTube things where it's like the weird stuff that kids are like in kids shows, and they like insert like
Elsa
little
Gate?
weird stuff.
Elsa Gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are stories of that actually though, but I don't know how credible they are.
So
Anyway, so Amityville Horror, this tape is playing.
So in high school, a couple years later, Kazaa just hit the streets, and I was downloading all of my stuff through like Kazaa and FrostWire and stuff like that. And so I
FrostWire.
downloaded Atmosphere's new album, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm so cool."
God Loves Ugly.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
I was an angsty teenager, and I was walking around with my headphones all the time. My mom's like, "What do you listen to?" I was like, "Nothing."
MC Slug.
Yeah, you wouldn't know, Ma.
Green Day.
I was listening to music one day, and I think it was late at night. I might have been drawing, and the track ended, and all of a sudden it was like, and made like a tear. And I threw my CD player across the room, and I stared at it, and I was like, oh, it's happening. Like, he found me, dude. I was so scared. And I didn't listen to that. I didn't listen to music for a while. And then it took me a while, a couple months later, before I would listen to that song again. Turns out it was like on the track, and it was just like a weird recording. But for a minute, I thought I was dancing with the devil.
Was it like late at night too? Because
Yeah.
I would have just added to that.
Oh, I stayed up till like 4 every night during high school, like an idiot.
Because like you're like up at like 2 or 3 a.m. and and it's like little sounds. Just everything is just so enhanced. You automatically are like already in that like mindset, So that I would die. Ugh.
That wrecked me. But it made me think of like, what's the scariest noise you could hear? At the time, that was it for me, Deej.
I feel like just hearing a normal like your own voice like telling you something creepy.
Yo.
I'm behind you, and it's like it's you telling you that, and you're just like, what?
I was going to say, when you asked like, what's the scariest, you guys don't know, but last week we decided to go explore haunted places up in Salt Lake. And while we were walking in the forest, someone asked, okay, what's the scariest thing that could possibly happen right now? And so we started talking about different scenarios. So the scariest thing that I could think of, if you were walking down the path in the forest and you see yourself, or you see someone who should be in your group with you, like a goat man type thing.
Ugh.
I was alone and I heard me talk to me. That might break my brain. I don't know.
Would you trust yourself? Like, say, like you see your, like there's like certain movies. I'm trying to think of a specific one. Like, will you go back in time or whatever, and then it's like yourself is guiding you through it to like.
Well,
save
luckily,
you?
I've set up a code with myself, so if that happens,
Smart.
I know what to tell me.
So it's the real you and not like
Yeah.
a clone.
And if he gets it wrong, he's gonna get dead.
I want to trust myself, unless
What?
it gave me the clone. Dude, you never know.
Oh, unless
that's
if
like
they give you the
step
code.
one of deception. It's like give you some familiarity so that you're comfortable, and now I'm going to take advantage.
In Captain Marvel, I just saw this last night,
You
so
can
it's
ruin
fresh.
whatever you
Yeah,
want.
dude, just tell
Like,
our
it's
listeners
okay.
what happens.
I know.
Okay, good.
It's not even a huge spoiler either, but there is some alien race, but one of their traits is they can copy your DNA,
Oh, they're like changelings.
or they're like changelings, and it's down to the DNA. So like somebody took their blood sample, they still wouldn't tell.
What?
It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Do they
That
get their
ability.
memories?
What is that?
Do they get their memories?
interesting part is they get their recent memories. I don't know how far back, if it's like a day or two.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
the main people who were fighting them, each of them had like their own code number or name that was secret, and something that they knew from a long time ago. So that's what they would use to identify if they were the real deal or not. That just reminded me of that.
That's wild.
Yeah. So
Do you guys have things you would reveal to yourselves? You should tell me what they are.
I don't have one. I'm not telling you mine.
I can't do that right now because what if my alter evil self is listening to this podcast?
Just whisper it to me.
What
No.
kind of frozen yogurt? What did she want?
What was like the scariest folklore you heard as a kid?
All of them. Just kidding.
What I shared last episode, night marchers.
Oh,
I remember the first time I learned about night marchers, I was under 10 years old. And I remember coming home and we had a 2-story house and it was time for bed. It's like 8 o'clock. Upstairs was pitch black. And I remember sitting at the bottom of the stairs, just bawling my eyes out, just looking upstairs at how dark it was and thinking about night marchers, the torches and the banging of the drums and my eyes rolling back and my fingers breaking and my life ending. So that was my childhood.
And your mom hit you. Go to bed. I remember a friend of mine having an irrational fear of chupacabras.
dude,
And I was
that's
like-
not irrational.
I was like, grow up. I was like 11. I was like, you're fine, dude. We were outside and he was like, don't even say it, dude. And I was like, we're fine. I was like, chill.
When we were up in Salt Lake doing all the haunted stuff, I saw like a little fox, and immediately I was like, chupacabra. Like, I was like, we got to get out of here. For me, honestly, like, I don't know if it's like, I'm trying to think of like a specific folklore story, but for me, mostly, I think it was just like evil spirits. That was just something I was like, still just like, just a little aware of, just don't want to tickle it, don't want to force it, but also don't want to experience it either. So as a kid, I would just be like, if it was really dark or really quiet, really late, I just was so scared that I'd hear like a voice or like see some figure or something.
So my dad told me when I was little that oftentimes with demonic possessions or demonic encounters, you can smell sulfur, like preempting their arrival. And I was probably 10 when he told me this. So
Okay.
I'd be walking around like trying to breathe through my mouth because I was like, hell no. Like if I was scared at night sitting in my bed, I was like terrified I was going to start smelling sulfur. So I'd be like, just, yeah, freaked out.
I legit still do that. Like, I'm like, if I smell it, I'm out. But like, if I don't smell it, like, was that sulfur?
Is that sulfur or Sean?
Both.
I think the most haunted place in Hawaii is the Big Island. A big part of that, from what the locals believe, and from what I guess we were kind of taught growing up, is because of the volcanic activity. That's where new life is. Land is being created. With that new life comes new spirits almost. It's like
So it's
where
like a portal or like,
almost, yeah, like where life is being created, it's like, yeah, it's almost like you're close to the other side, whatever that might be. It just reminded me because of what you were saying, because you were talking about sulfur, and that's the smell around volcanoes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So
there might be something to that.
That would be interesting, yeah, if there was, like, if, and especially because I feel like, because in Hawaiian culture, right, volcanoes are very sacred, and they're also, like, a place of, like, where ancestors and, like, spiritual activity is very rampant, right? Is that kind of, like, a belief or a...
yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. There's a national park. Yeah, it is a national park. Volcanoes National Park, where Kilauea is still erupting right now. I remember I was in Scouts during my adolescence, and we had one big hiking trip a year. We did a bunch of campouts and hiking. A lot of times our fathers would come really good bonding activities, whatnot. But we planned one big trip every year. And my very first one was on the Big Island. And we went hiking a ton. The hardest one was only 15 miles. It was supposed to be like 8, but this was I was 12. So this is 15 years ago. Nobody had smartphones. We were using like actual maps. And as part of Scouts, we had compasses as well. It was part of like an orienteering merit badge. So it was a pretty bare bones way of navigation, but that's what we had. But the map ripped, and that's why it went from 8 miles to 15 miles. and the terrain was in like the lava deserts, like where
So it's not
everything
even
was
beautiful.
Yeah, not pretty at all.
Just
Everything's
barren wasteland.
Yeah, barren wasteland and
Black.
and jagged rocks up and down, up and down. Like there wasn't one part that was flat. So it was just rough terrain and we were lost. But when we finally made it to the cabin, I'd have to talk to one of my scout leaders to see if they still have these pictures. But these were still the days of like disposable cameras. Like digital cameras weren't quite a thing yet. So we developed the pictures after the trip, and we stayed in this cabin at Volcanoes National Park, where there's a lot of stories about spirits wandering around, both good and bad, but spirits wandering everywhere nonetheless. And in the cabin we stayed at, pretty remote, and in the pictures we developed, one of my buddies, Ian, was standing in the doorway, and the flash of the disposable camera was on. And in the hallway we were standing in, the light was on as well, but the room behind him was the light was off. And in the developed picture, you can very clearly see a hand right behind him, like reaching towards him or reaching towards the doorway that he was standing in. And that was just really eerie, super creepy. And if you look at the picture, it couldn't have been anything else.
Oh.
It was like an apparition, kind of transparent, but very clearly a hand. Like you see the wrinkles in the palm, the fingernails. Like it was pretty creepy.
Dude, that's wild. You need to hit him up.
Yeah, there's a couple people I could talk to see if they maybe still have those pictures. What do you think of pictures like that have, I don't know, I guess ghosts or spirits in them? I remember my aunt growing up, and she told me that spirits live in trees. And she was a teacher at an intermediate school about 10 minutes away from my house. There's a huge banyan tree, which are all over in Hawaii. It almost looks like if you've seen Avatar with the blue people, it kind of looks like that. It's just huge. It's like a big umbrella almost.
It's one of those ones with like thick roots that like kind of pop out.
Yeah,
and they
pop
can,
out of the ground.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and when it's fully grown, the treetop just looks like a huge umbrella. Really beautiful. They were planning on cutting down the tree because it was just too big. Before they cut it down, she took a picture of it. And in the picture, you can see a couple of faces in the tree. And I remember her showing me that as well. And I think I was about the same age that we went on that camping trip. But have you seen anything like that before?
Personally, no. I have no like personal experiences with it. And like every single one that I do see, I always just think, it's just a digital artifact. Because like, I don't know, I Photoshop every single day for my work. So when I see a lot of things, I'm like, meh. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's definitely harder nowadays with it being the digital age. But back then, like I said, people were still using disposable cameras and nobody was Photoshopping anything.
No, it's always like creeped me out, like when you see those photos and you're just like, oh, that looks like something behind them. But I've never like developed my own film and saw anything wild. But wait, who told you? Wait, so spirits live in trees, she was saying?
Yeah, my aunt was telling me that.
That's wild. So like the lumber industry is basically like, we're like gentrifying spirits.
Moving in.
Get out.
I don't know if other cultures believe that. I don't even know if that's strictly a Hawaiian thing or not. I feel like in Hawaii, anything that has to do with nature is just almost like God's hand is in nature, creating things. So his power or influence or spirits can linger within those creations. I think that's kind of the idea, like going back to the volcanic activity and then trees, I don't know.
I think there's like legitimacy to that for sure, though.
Did you hear that there's a new island popping up in Hawaii?
Really?
Yeah, dude. Finna go buy some land, boy.
How long? How long we have to wait till that thing gets all clear?
It's a couple thousand years.
Yeah. Actually, in the Hawaiian chain, there's 8 islands in Hawaii right now. Actually, I think technically 9, but it's not.
Don't count the leper colony or
Is that
what?
the one with all the lepers on it?
No.
That you used to use for like
The leper
nuking
colony
and bomb.
is on Kauai, I think.
Molokai? Hawaii?
I think it's on Kauai, but they've eradicated that disease from there, so that was a thing in the past. In the actual chain, though, there's like a couple hundred islands developing. They're still underwater, but volcanic activity, and every year they grow a half an inch or something like that. Super interesting.
A burning ring of fire.
Can you imagine if you were exploring on Kauai and you like find an old derelict building with containers in it? You open the containers and there's just leprous bodies in there.
Good Lord.
It's just a vat, and they're all just kind of squished in there.
By that point, you're already contaminated.
Exactly, dude.
You've been breathing their air. I would just dive headfirst into that pile.
Because leprosy is like one of those diseases you get, and then like you can't like reverse what's already happened. You can just stop it where it's at, right?
I guess.
I would dive into the barrel and then buy a ticket to New York.
Dude,
Just
go
run
Shanghai,
around
dude.
Times
Get
Square.
wild. Kill more population.
I'm just kidding. JK. I'll tell not that one. I'm going to tell one about my dad. So my dad has like 6 stories that he told me growing up that I remembered, and they like stuck with me. So I'll tell one of them. My dad, much like me, was a latchkey kid. So his parents both bought a restaurant in Salt Lake when he was like 10. And every night they'd work till like 10 or 11 at night. So he'd get home from school at 3:30, and he'd be alone till 10. And he's like 11, 12, 13, 14. So he had like the run of the house. He said he gained a ton of weight because he just ate like 6 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner every night. But in high school, he started, this is weird. He started reading a book. And he started reading the book Amityville Horror.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. And if you don't know, it's a story of a family on the East Coast who move into a home, and the father becomes possessed and kills the whole family. So there's super iconic scenes in the movie and book of the priest coming into a room, and he's being overwhelmed by flies covering the walls, like getting into his face and stuff. There's other scene, like I mentioned before, the kid hearing the demonic voice and then shooting his siblings and stuff in their sleep. So he starts reading this book, and he said he gets about halfway when he can't even be in the house alone. So he started having to go to friends' houses, right? Because he's alone. He's alone in this house. He's terrified. And by this time, my dad is dating my mom in high school. And he said his room was all the way at the top of the stairs. Then you'd come down the stairs, and there was like a landing. There was another bedroom, the sewing room, and then you'd go down to the main floor. So him and my mom were coming down the stairs, and he looks into the sewing room, and the entire window is covered in flies. And that's like one of the scenes in Amityville Horror is the room is covered in flies. And he said he stopped and just stared, like one of those instances where your brain can't really compute what's happening. So he's like standing there looking, and he said, no joke, you couldn't see through the window. There was just flies covering this window. So he just ran in and grabbed the window, opened it, shut the door, and left. And I don't think he came home for a while. And then like when he came home like a day later, they were all gone.
Oh man.
But he said after that experience, he stopped reading about demons. He stopped reading about all that stuff, and he like never pursued it again.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay. That's so wild though. Just a window full of flies. At least they weren't those orange and black bugs from the house.
So kind of like your mom's warning, my dad gave me a warning when I was little. Just like, I think that's why he told me about the sulfur and stuff. Like, be super careful about entertaining or like engaging, looking things out.
Well,
Obviously, it didn't help, but
well, like I think I kind of relate it to. I think about it like someone who's positive or negative. Like you can easily feel that energy. Somebody who's very upbeat and positive, they like help lighten a room up. But also like either the same people or other people can kind of bring it down by just being negative, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the same kind of thing happens with like, talking about scary stories or making those connections, like those darker things. It just kind of brings like a darker energy, and it's not that like inherently all of it's evil. It's just like, it's just more like inviting. You know what I mean?
I 100% know
like,
what you
and
mean.
You just feel that too. Like we kind of talked about it last time too, but
I agree with you. When you start talking about things, you invite them. And one of the things I do not like talking about, because it always happens, is sleep paralysis. So every time I've told my experiences or the experiences that I know, someone invariably has it like that night, and someone who hasn't experienced it.
Oh.
And so I feel super guilty.
That happened to me a lot growing up. I must have experienced sleep paralysis 50 times, at least.
I experienced it a lot too, and maybe not that much, but I definitely experienced it a good amount of times, like in high school. I remember, especially like right before my mission, I experienced it a lot, like 18, 19.
Your mission?
Right before it, yeah.
Do we have odds for who's going to get it tonight then?
Have you had sleep paralysis?
No.
It's easy, because all three of us already got it,
I'm the
dude.
most skeptical here. It's not going to be me.
But I remember growing up, like, talking about it.
Did you understand what it was? Did you know it had a name?
At first, no.
No idea.
I had no idea what it was. It would just happen, and it would be terrifying.
Okay, for our listeners who are uneducated or uninitiated, what is sleep paralysis?
So the experience, basically what happens when you are sleeping, there's a point where you feel like you can't breathe, you can't move, and a lot of times people start to hallucinate and see and hear things that aren't actually happening. And growing up, when I experienced it, I swear I was awake and I was conscious and I knew what was going on. And what was going on was I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. And I would see shadows.
So you would actually see shadows?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wild. Do you remember your dreams that would lead up to it? Because I'd always have very similar dreams that would lead up to mine.
No. I personally don't remember anything leading up to it or anything visual or audible leading up to it. But it's happened so frequently to me now, I know when it's going to happen.
You can feel it?
Yeah, I can feel it coming on.
Me too, yeah.
And
that makes sense.
I can prevent it, but it's still pretty scary. And it's interesting because I'll prevent it, and I feel like I just got out of like a battle or like a fight because yes, exactly. It leaves me like breathless and I'm like exhausted, and I feel even more tired, and I'll sink back into sleep paralysis again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you ever come out of it and gone back in?
Yes, it's happened. It's happened. Yeah, and it gets worse almost every time. It feels like. I think the most it's happened to me was maybe like 3 or 4 times in one night.
Oh, what?
I want to like what it's like for me. Most of the time, I'm sleeping, and I can. When you're okay, so it's the space between awake and asleep.
Scientifically.
For me, that's what it feels like. It's like I'm asleep, but I'm still aware of my surroundings, where I'm not quite awake. And then I can feel it coming on. And then I get overcome by overwhelming fear. And then all of a sudden, it feels like I'm being held down, like pushed down. And on a couple occasions, I sink into the bed. Like it feels like I'm moving down, like, and then you can't breathe, you can't move. You're like using all of your strength to try to like lift your arm. Nothing's working, and you're screaming for someone. Nothing. Yeah, and it's like a battle for your life. So when you finally come out of it, and you like snap out of it, you're like, and you feel so drained and tired. But that's what it's like for me.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is for me as well. The way I've always explained it is, I feel like most people have had dreams where they're falling and then they kind of like hit the ground and then they wake up. Just kind of like that jolt. Yeah. Sleep paralysis to me is that split second of where you hit the ground and that jolt, but it lasts for
That's a great,
like 10, 20, 30 seconds.
And I feel like time is not real when you're like sleep paralysis because it feels like an hour, but realistically it's probably like 10 seconds.
It's probably like 10, 30 seconds max, I would say, but it feels like an hour almost sometimes.
What do you guys do to get out of it? Because whenever I'm in it, and cause like it hits you, right, and you're just like you're overwhelmed. You feel all like the tightness. You can't move. You can't breathe, and so that's what scares me is like I can't breathe. I'm gonna suffocate, and then all of a sudden I start focusing on my breathing, and I'm like, oh wait, I can breathe, and I start breathing, and then it's like, and then after what it feels like is forever, you're able to eventually move, and you're like, okay, now I can break out of it. But it's like, what do you do? Like, what do you guys focus on when like once you realize? Because I feel like when it first happens, you don't realize what's happening, and then you're like, oh no, it's sleep paralysis. I've done this before.
For me, the physical thing that I'll do is roll over. I try to like physically roll my body over. So it feels like I'm like almost like binded.
Oh, dude.
By like, I don't know, a rope or a chain. And like I legit like try to like spread my arms out and like turn my body. And when I do, it's so exhausting, dude. Yeah. It's so tiring. It's
such a stressful thing to think about right now because it's been a while since I've had it, and like rethinking about it, I'm like, it sucks.
I had a roommate who watched me have sleep paralysis and tried to wake me up.
Whoa.
And I kind of wish he like filmed it or something so I could see what I look like in it. But
how'd they describe it?
I woke them up because I was like mumbling, not say like my mouth was closed, but I was just kind of like like struggling out of it, and that's also part of how I try to get out of sleep paralysis. Like I try to say something but that's what woke him up, and then he said he could just see me, kind of almost like my body was just kind of like wiggling a little bit back and forth, wow. Like struggling or something. But yeah,
my most extreme sleep paralysis was when I told the Ouija board story. I would have sleep paralysis, and then I was watching my body from above me, and I could see my room, and my eyes were closed. So I could see the room, but my eyes were closed.
So you're also astroplaning as well?
I think like a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
And every time I would look, I would see that shadow at the door. And that's like a big part of sleep paralysis is people see shadow people. And
dark figures or
standing at the foot of your bed, standing at the door, things like that.
For our listeners, I think that was episode 1 about the Ouija board. Either 1 or 2.
I think it would.
I have so
you
many.
You have a 50-50 chance of getting it.
Yeah, we don't really know. You might not hear it. But for me, like, I would have, when I was little, I would have the same dream over and over, and I don't remember my dreams. Like, I rarely remember my dreams. So I probably can remember, like, 7 dreams I've had my whole life. But they're always very, like, apparent, which is very interesting to me because I don't. Like, some people, like, oh, I know what I dreamed about last night. And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I might have little inklings or whatever, memories of them. But basically, I would always...
What's your sleep paralysis dream?
So my sleep paralysis dream would be when I was little, my dad would be like going somewhere, and I had originally told him I would come, or I wouldn't come, or something like that. He would leave, and then he'd be like, Jordan, you ready to go? And like I wouldn't be able to move to like go. And I'd feel super bad because he wanted me to come, and then I wouldn't want to go. But then I'd also have, there's a couple dreams where I'd have like something was like after me, And then once you're in that sleep paralysis, you can't move. So it's going to get you. And so you have like that feeling of like, I need to move right now, but you can't. And it's just, oh gosh.
I actually have a story. The other night, Sunday night, we had a bunch of friends over. I think originally for a movie, but we were all just hanging out in the living room.
Because out there slinging.
And before we got to what we were wanting to do, I just asked if anybody had any scary stories
Smart.
or scary things that they encountered. And everybody was like, I have one that I've personally experienced. I was like, yes, this is perfect.
I need to start being more social so I can get more stories.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not in these opportunities often.
So, and I've actually been doing this for the past few weeks, like any social setting. I'll just ask people like what scary stories they have. And there was a point where we just turned off all the lights. I brought out a candle, lit it, put it in the middle of the room, and then we just told stories. And this one came from a friend named Molly. And this happened about 3 or 4 years ago. And at the time, she was living in New Caledonia.
Where the hell's that, dog? For our listeners.
I thought I was good at geography, but what is that?
Well, New Caledonia is, I think, a part of Melanesia. Yes, close to Australia, just northeast of Australia. But yeah, I think it's a part of Melanesia, which also includes like Vanuatu. Melanesia just borders Polynesia. So it's in the Southwest Pacific. Yeah, we were all sitting in the living room and we started sharing stories. A good friend of mine, Molly, shared one of hers. And this was probably, to me, this is the one that I found most terrifying out of all the stories that were shared. And I was really excited to share it here. But Molly is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You might know them as the Mormons. And this is part of the context of her story. She served as one of those Mormon missionaries you may have seen out in New Caledonia. And New Caledonia is part of Melanesia. It's in Southwest Pacific, right outside of Australia.
So real quick, like what you do when you serve a mission is you leave your family and friends. You go out a lot of the times for the first time in your life. And your objective, your goal is just to help people, whatever that might entail. So a lot of people do a lot of service work. A lot of people teach about, the church and teach about the beliefs and stuff like that. But you're really supposed to like set your whole life apart to do this. You're supposed to concentrate on this as hard as you can. And it's an experience we've all had in different places. You experience a lot of very intense situations most of the time.
I would agree. In fact, that's how most of us on this podcast met. Jordan, Sean, and I met in the Philippines as missionaries. And then Charles served in Australia as a missionary. So, yeah, right before Molly heads out to serve on her mission, female missionaries, they're gone for 18 months. And that's a long time to be away from home and your friends, especially in a third world country. Learning a new language, dealing with other people.
And our time too. We weren't on social media.
Mm-hmm.
We could only email our family once a week. We only called our family twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like wild. Like
that was just missionary life.
Pretty
and
remote.
It was mostly for us to just stay focused on our purpose in the field.
Oh, for sure.
Which Charles mentioned earlier is to either teach our beliefs, the gospel, do actual service work.
Yeah. The first 2 words of our entire goal and objective is help others.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's your whole goal. It's just to help others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right before Molly is leaving for her mission, she has this experience with sleep paralysis. It's her very first time experiencing it. And the way she describes it is she was awake and conscious of what was going on. And what was going on was she was immobilized. She couldn't move. Felt this huge pressure on her chest, just pressing down on her where she could barely breathe. And what was interesting is she had a ton of negative thoughts and feelings enter into her head, and she said that they weren't her thoughts, and it terrified her. She got out of it somehow. She didn't really go into detail about that, but she remembers looking at the time, and it was around 3 a.m. when that happened.
That's alarming.
It is alarming.
I know it's a joke we make often, but it's a joke for a reason. Like, a lot of my weird experiences happen around 3 a.m.
Yeah. Well, in fact, that night, because we talked about all these stories, before I went to bed, as I was going to bed, I was like, I would not be surprised if I had sleep paralysis tonight. Luckily, I didn't.
Oh, nice.
But I woke up in the middle of the night. My right eye, no joke, was like stinging and just watering up. Just my right eye. It just kept tearing up, and it was so sore. And I wanted to go to the bathroom to get some water and like wash my eye out and see if anything was wrong. I pick up my phone and I look, and it's 3 o'clock on the dot. This is the night that
300.
300 on the dot. And this is the night that we were all sharing stories. So I think there is some type of credibility behind talking about these things, and inviting, these kind of experiences to happen again sometime, somehow, with some people.
So
Anyway.
good luck out there.
Yeah. Quick side note with what happened with that. So that was Molly's experience. That doesn't end there, though. Fast forward 1 year. She's on her mission. She has a roommate, and you'll see Mormon missionaries walk around 2 by 2. They're always with another missionary. And that person is called a companion. Your companion is there too. You're there to help each other, focus on that purpose of teaching or helping other people. Some of my companions have been some of my best friends. And you're just trying to stick it out together. Anyway, so her companion and Molly, they were the only ones in the house. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 companionships in the house, but in this case, it was just Molly and her companion. And a year to the date of when she had her first sleep paralysis, she has it again in New Caledonia.
Same day.
Same day. Exact same day. And this time, she wakes up and she feels that intense pressure. She can't move. She can't breathe. Her bed is right next to the wall, and on the other side of the wall is the kitchen. And she says she remembers hearing the sink slowly turning on and a cup filling up with water. And after that happens, she hears a male voice say on the other side of the wall, "Molly, why are you awake?"
My eyes are tearing up right now. I'm like kind of crying.
Okay. It doesn't stop there.
What?
After the male voice says that, a female voice says, "Molly, why are you awake?" And at this point, Molly is still, I guess, in sleep paralysis mode where she can't move, she can't breathe, but she can hear these things. Those first 2 voices happen, and apparently it's a thin wall enough for her to hear these things. But she hears it again, "Molly, are you awake?" And that phrase keeps repeating itself, except it's coming around the corner.
It's like getting closer and closer to a door.
Closer to the door.
Oh. Is the
And
door shut?
She could
locked?
hear the voice traveling. "Molly, why are you awake? Molly, why are you awake?" Moving around the corner, getting closer to her door. And then it stops at her door. And she explains that she prayed. And that's something I feel like I've done when I've experienced sleep paralysis. I don't know what else to do.
Dude.
As somebody who believes in God, I'll ask for help. I mean,
Can't hurt.
yeah.
I wake up at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. I'm saying a prayer.
There's nothing much else I feel like I can do. And she did the same. But got to the door, and that was pretty much it. She prayed. She got out of her sleep paralysis. She didn't go to sleep for the rest of the night.
For the rest of her life.
For the rest of her life. The last thing that happened was she looked at the clock, and when it happened, it was also 3 a.m. in the morning.
Dude, she's like our freaking mascot, dude.
Pretty much. But that was the last time she had sleep paralysis. She's had it twice in her life.
Dude.
Each one, they were a year apart from each other during times that she was experiencing a lot of physical, emotional, mental stress. I wonder if that affects sleep paralysis. I think it probably plays a factor. I don't know exactly how,
dude.
but
It's weird. I'm going to touch like a little bit. So there is a scientific explanation for sleep paralysis. And to my understanding, my super limited understanding, basically what's happening is your mind has woken up, but there is a disconnect between your mind and your body has not woken up. So your motor skills and everything still shut off as if you were asleep. Your body does that because it doesn't want to react to dreams. So in a dream, if you were having a stressful dream, you'd be throwing punches, right? So in order to protect yourself from hurting yourself, your body has this mechanism where it can completely like paralyze you. And so that's what my understanding is, like your brain was woken up, your mind, but it didn't switch that switch. It like forgot. But so that's like the scientific explanation. But there's so many extra stuff around it that it like doesn't feel just like a coincidence or like it feels like planned. It feels, I don't know. It feels like there's something more to it.
Well, and also like the feeling that there's figures around you and things like that too. You're just like, are those just like figments of everyone's imagination, or is like your brain in a state to where like for some reason it's just what you're seeing is just these projections from your brain or whatever?
Wonder why it only happens to some people
and not others. I don't know. Maybe like your switch is just stronger than
maybe
ours.
It's based on your sexual orientation.
I have never had sleep paralysis, but I have been hungry before, and the best way for me to cure that is to go to our sponsor, Green Beanie Catering. His Instagram is Green Beanie Catering, and he has a website, greenbeaniecatering.com. He will cater your quinceañera, your birthday, your wedding,
Homeboy
other
would cater
special
your
events.
Conception, dude. He would do anything for you.
I said quinceañera like 3 times in yesterday's podcast with association to Green Beanie Catering, so
Lots of
I appreciate
quinceañeras.
our connectivity.
That was a beautiful ad. Good segue. But on the
was
real,
well
so
done.
Kevin, we're gonna pull the curtain back a little bit. Kevin's actually one of our greatest friends, but that doesn't take away from his ability to cook at all. He is one of the best chefs I've ever met in my entire life, and I've been around the world. But furthermore, Kevin has so many experiences and stories that have happened directly to him that are going to be on this podcast. So we're trying to figure out if we're going to have him come on and tell them, or I'm just going to relay them. Because when I first met Kevin, so what I do a lot of the times when I meet people is like, what's your best scary story? And when I asked Kevin that, I was blown away because we had like a 3-hour-long conversation and he didn't scratch the surface. So Kevin has he has a very close, constant, a reoccurring relationship with the dark arts, dude, with like the dark side of stuff.
And with Kevin too, like not even just the amount, but like the quality of stories. I'm just like, if this happened to me, I would no longer be here.
I feel like, as somebody who believes that there are spirits, good and bad, I feel like we can't see them because there's almost like a curtain or like a veil in between, I guess, the worlds that each entity resides in. But there are some people, I feel like, who are closer to that veil, or that veil is a bit thinner for them, and they're really sensitive to those types of things. Kevin is one of those people. Sometimes it's on purpose. People seek out those things, and I feel like most of us on this podcast. But some people are, I don't know what it is. If we were to describe Kevin, he's very benevolent, very loving, sensitive, and
Loud, energetic,
That
exciting,
too.
like a big presence. Like he commands like a group really well, and when Kevin's there, like he's gonna make himself known because of everyone else that wants to be around him, connect with him. Maybe he's just so loud the ghosts just are like trying to haunt him to like make him be quiet or whatever. Like, shut up, dude.
he's charismatic. And I think, why can't, if you believe in spirits, why can't they also be attracted to certain, people?
I almost feel like maybe the veil is thinner for them, or in a way they're like targeted more, because they are like every person I know like that tends to have like a big personality. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what it is.
Also, DJ was talking about those photos. You got any crazy photos that you guys have taken or that you know in your family? Email them to us as well. We can post them up on our Instagram, share that content with everyone else, and just get a little creepy together.
We don't have answers to everything. And I don't know if we'll ever learn any answers for some of these things in this life. But these are things that are fascinating. A lot of people have these stories, or know people that have these stories. Even though we might not find out the answers behind them, they're still exciting, and there's a lot to learn culturally, historically, with these stories. So if you have anything, we'd love to hear them and even share them here on the podcast one day. So thanks for coming through and listening. Does anybody have any other stories?
I'll tell one. So I think this is a common experience for a lot of people who decide to go out on a mission in the Mormon church. Is like right before you go, more often than not, you face a lot of opposition, whatever that may be. And that was true for me. So I decided to go out kind of late. I wasn't really sure if I was about that thing. And for personal reasons, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And so I had made the decision, and a lot of things started happening. But one of the times I had gone into my room. So you remember I described my room last time. I had a love sack on the ground. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Careful what you Google. But it basically, essentially, it's a big beanbag. And then I had a loft bed. So it was like a bunk bed, but there was no bottom one. So I had my desk under my bunk bed, right? And the love sack was under that. So I was kind of lazy, didn't like climbing the ladder. So most of the time I just slept on my love sack under my loft bed. And this is in the same house where I had all of those experiences that made me convinced it was haunted. So I'm sleeping on the love sack. I can hear my mom like cooking in the next room. And all of a sudden my eyes pop open wide. And I'm staring, like drilling holes with my eyes under the bed. So I'm looking up at the bed that's right above my head. And I feel like an overwhelming presence, like an undeniable presence. Like there is a dark figure right above that mattress. And I'm like just staring at it, and my whole body is paralyzed. I can't move. And I can hear my mom cooking. So in my mind, I start screaming for my mom, but nothing's coming out. Nothing's coming out. So I'm staring at it and just praying in my head, trying with all my might to roll over. And it's getting closer and closer to the edge of the bed. And I can feel it, and it looks dark up there. And finally, I snap out of it. I roll over and I run out of my room, and I'm like, and my mom just looks at me. She's like, "You all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." And I just went and sat on the couch for like the rest of the day. I was like, I'm not going back in there.
What's crazy too with sleep paralysis is like even like in the middle of the day, you're like terrified. Because like most things, if they happen and it's like 2 p.m., you're like, oh, okay, like that wasn't scary. But if that same thing happened at like 3 or like 4, you're like terrified, right? But like sleep paralysis, it's still terrifying in the daylight. It's like the same. Oh,
it's just that being completely defenseless. Like you can't do anything if something were to show up.
Yeah, it's vulnerability. Like
you're screwed basically.
it's like those people who are like, what's it called? You're like in a coma or whatever, but you can like, it's not technically that, but like you know, like where people think you're paralyzed, but you're actually still awake, you know?
Yeah, people who have come out of comas, they share stories about how friends have visited them and they remember somebody sharing, like, just eating with them, sharing a story. Yeah, things like that.
Or like getting tortured, like you getting tortured, there's like nothing you can do, right? And so like with sleep paralysis, it's just like, oh man, anyone could come up and do whatever.
It's also crazy how, I guess, this phenomenon is like it's worldwide, you know, and
common.
It's happened for a long time. I remember watching a video about different countries and their cultures and their folklore behind sleep paralysis, and every culture, or a lot of different cultures, have names for almost like the demon or the ghost that suppresses you during sleep paralysis and induces that state of paralysis. The Italians, and I apologize if I'm butchering this, but the Italians call the ghost Panda Fece.
Panda Fece.
Sounds good, yeah.
And it's apparently an evil witch or ghost-like spirit, sometimes a terrifying cat-like creature. The Cambodians call it the ghost that pushes you down. In Egypt, the ghost is called the jinn, Jinn.
That's a precursor for the genie.
Is it?
That's where the genies come from, is from the jinn. Jinn
Really?
are like way older than genies.
They're like demons. Jinns
Yeah.
are demons.
Jinns are
Jinn.
demons.
There's like an anime about something jinn.
There was a movie made about the jinn as well.
Oh, really?
It's like a 14 on Rotten Tomatoes, so probably don't watch it, but it happened.
14.
What else is there? That's crazy.
Well, it's funny that the jinn is it's Egyptian, because if you ever played the game Tekken,
Oh, I love it.
which is a Japanese game, but one of the main characters is Jin, and he's like the son of the devil or something. Other names, I remember in Hawaii growing up, it was just called the sitting ghost. You just sit on your chest and you can't breathe or move.
Squat on that chest.
Yeah, take a little squat. But yeah, it's been around for a long time and everywhere.
Okay.
And it's ingrained in culture.
Like 150 years ago, 200 years ago, before like medicine and modern medicine stuff, like you assume that's a demon. Like
Dude.
not too long ago, you know, like
Before they knew what germs were, it was like, there's things you can't see, little creatures that come in and kill you. It's like,
That's God's punishment, bro.
dude, germs are terrifying.
But yeah, like how before science, before you knew that mechanism that woke you up, how it's a ghost. Sleep paralysis is a demon for sure, because you actually see things. So I don't know.
You feel it, you can't move.
Who had the cat thing? The cat creature?
That looks terrifying.
What was that?
Cambodia?
The Italians?
Italian.
Okay. My friend told me this story, and it rocked her so hard. She asked me to never tell it to anyone. So I'm just going to tell it to you guys. And
We're
everyone
just going to tell it on the worldwide.
everyone at home,
net.
cover your ears because you can't listen to this
Yeah,
part.
please don't listen. Thank you.
But I won't mention her name.
Well, we know it's a her.
Amber.
I'm sign languaging it right now. No. Anyway, so when this happened to her, dude, she came to me like pretty shook. She was one of my best friends in high school, and we both actively sought out scary stuff all the time. We both had older siblings who were really into like ghost hunting or like going out to find urban legends. So they told us all of those. And between me and her, we like knew all the urban legends in the entire Central Valley. So she was one of my friends who I did that with a lot. Anyway, one night she's in her room. Her bed is right in front of her closet, and she'd taken down the doors from her closet, and she just hung up a sheet. She said she was like tossing and turning. She couldn't fall asleep. She had this weird uneasy feeling, and she rolls over with her back to the closet, and she hears a low growl coming from the open closet right behind her.
How close is her bed to the closet?
Her room was small. Her house was pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
2 feet.
Okay.
Like you could reach out and touch the closet from her bed.
Okay.
She had a big...
Or it could reach out and touch her from the
Exactly.
closet.
So
Cool.
the growl is like on her. She's being growled on.
Okay. So she rolls over back to the closet, and she hears this low at first, quiet growl. And she freezes up. And she like doesn't move. Because she wants to, like, am I actually hearing this? And she just hears like this growl. And it's getting louder and closer. And she starts like hyperventilating. And she said she's so terrified she can't move. And the growl comes up until it's like on her neck. And it's loud. And she doesn't know what to do. She said this is the most terrified she'd ever been. She could not move. Whether that was sleep paralysis or fear, I don't know. But she said she could not move. And the growl is like super loud and aggressive right on her neck. And then all of a sudden, it like roared or barked, and she felt something jump on her and push her face down into the mattress super hard, all the way into the mattress, sinking in, and then it's gone. And she flipped around, bawling, looked in her room, nothing. She had like a string that hung from her light. She reached up, grabbed it, turned the light on, nothing in the room. And she's like, I don't know how to explain. Like, what was that? What is that? And I was like, I don't know, dude.
That sounds terrifying. A growl audibly on your neck.
But that's the first time I've ever heard to it referred as like a cat demon or anything like that. So I've never thought of that, but like I made that connection while you're saying that. It's weird.
Were they like hands or paws or a full body pressed on her? Did she go into detail about
The way
like, what the interaction between her body and whatever was touching her?
Not super specific. All I know is like the growl was right up on the back of her neck. It was loud. She said it sounded like feline or darker, like a bigger. And then when it rolled her over and pushed her face down in the mattress, the way she always described it was feline. That's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
But she never said it was like a cat. And she said it was like a lot bigger because she owned cats, but she was like, there is no way that was my cat. My cat didn't flip me over and push me down into the mattress.
Mm-hmm.
That would be terrifying, though, if your cat did that.
That cat would
I'd stomp
not
that
wake up.
cat real quick.
Yeah.
Catch some toes.
Be like,
To its
go
face.
bite this curb, kitty.
Yeah. Smash the back of its head 9 times just to make sure.
10, bro.
Yeah, 10. Get rid of all of its lives.
Just swallow the end of this muzzle here.
Anyway, so yeah, I've never told that to anyone.
If I hear growling tonight,
That's okay. So
I'm gonna be upset.
since she's told me that, I have like a checklist of like when I get scared and have weird feelings: smell for sulfur, listen for growls, check the temperature if it starts to drop.
And then when I like wake up, I'm always like looking, but like I'm very straight, pretending like I'm still sleeping, but like
I do the same thing. The other night when my eye was stinging, and before I went to the bathroom, I looked at the time and saw it was 3:00 on the dot. Like I put my phone down and just laid there for an hour. I didn't know how much time had passed. And I remember thinking after laying there for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes that the most terrifying thing would be me looking back at my phone and seeing that it was still 3 in the morning.
oh my
I had that like situation playing in my head for a long time that night. This was a few nights ago, and I just laid in bed and refused to go to bed for a while. Then I kept my eyes open and just like looked around my room, because I don't know, I just didn't want to go to bed. But I finally picked up my phone and looked, and it was exactly 4:00.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did it feel like an hour?
I don't know. Sometimes it felt like longer than an hour, and then it felt longer than an hour.
This
That's-
wasn't the daylight savings, was it?
No, this wasn't daylight savings.
Okay, just making sure.
Because
be so funny. You're like, it's 3 a.m. again.
it is April 3rd right now. That happened on April 1st.
All right.
Oh, that was
Okay.
daylight savings.
So the universe was April Foolsing you
Yeah, hell, I got April fooled that night.
by demon.
Yeah, but it was crazy. It was like an exact hour, and then after that, I don't know why, I was like okay, it's not 3 o'clock anymore.
We're good.
I'm good.
Safe.
Put my phone down, and then I just closed my eyes and I went to sleep like immediately.
Be terrifying.
Do any of you check like your closet or anything before you go to bed?
It depends on how wild I'm feeling. So like, it depends on where I'm at too. If I'm at my parents', dude, I am checking everywhere. I don't know why though. Maybe it's because with like living with you guys, I'm like, oh, I got like 3 other dudes. We're gonna be fine. Like if something goes down, we're throwing down.
I won't lie. Every night for the past week, I've checked my closet and under my bed is after I saw the movie Us.
Oh, dude, as you should.
Spooky.
What I was gonna say is I check everything. I check closets. I check. Part of it is because I know I won't be able to fall asleep because in the back of my mind, I'll think,
Something's there.
damn it, dude,
Unless
I should
I
have
know.
checked. And I'm not checking for ghosts. I'm not checking for monsters. I'm checking for humans,
Yeah.
for real
Oh,
creatures.
for sure.
For you.
'Cause-
I do the same thing when I go to my car every time, especially at night. Mostly at night. But before I get into my car, I look into my backseat.
Oh, I go backseat all day. I feel down to the ground almost every time I hop into the car because I'm like, what if it's like a miniature dude trying to murder me?
Next time you feel, what if you just hit a breathing chest?
I hit a breathing test. I pull my hand back and just run out of my car. If I'm driving, I'm
Start
throwing
smacking my
bowls.
head
I'm
against
throwing
the
bows.
steering wheel.
Just bird boxing.
I'd be like, oh, what's up, dude? What are you doing? Just be really nice to them. Maybe that's all they want is just somebody to be nice and not scared of
Yeah.
them, you know?
I have nothing to offer. I have like
One from me.
$20 in Venmo credit, hella Chick-fil-A points. Maybe that's of some
I
consolation.
want that silver status.
Are you still silver? Or are you gold now?
I
Or is
am
it red?
I
don't know
am
what
like $10 away from Red Member, which is
wow.
the top upper echelon level of Chick-fil-A
Oh,
kingdom.
Damn.
Shawty.
That's
I
insane.
know.
That's wild.
You'll address me as sir.
The red man.
King fillet.
The red one.
No, that's you. Don't try
I'm gonna
to
tell
don't
your
try
grandma, bro.
I check everywhere, like everywhere in the house if I come home and the door's unlocked.
That's my thing. If the door is unlocked, gotta check everywhere.
I'm like, oh gosh. And then
Have you
then I will
checked this
literally-
back room ever before?
Chad's?
Yeah.
I legit have gone in there.
You
just
and
to
me
make
did
sure.
it. You and
Funny,
me did it
dude.
a couple times.
Why is that funny?
I have never checked anything.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like you've had experiences and you're like,
Oh,
you
no,
didn't
I was
check
just
well
like-
enough. I was like, what?
One time, the most scared I've ever been in a movie was when I went and saw The Grudge.
Who'd you go with?
I went with my little sister and my dad.
Pack Theater?
I can't remember because I was too terrified. I don't know. It was when I was like 13, 14.
Okay.
So The Grudge is by all means not the scariest movie, but for some reason it affected me more. I've seen Hannibal Lecter. I've seen, like Silence of the Lambs. I've seen every scary movie there was out. Some of them don't really faze me at all, but for some reason The Grudge got me. And it might be because I'm part Japanese.
There's also something about like a little girl, like children being demonic is terrifying. Or smaller people, for some reason, that is, I don't know why, but it's like a flex because they're like so aggressive at you, and you're like, you shouldn't be. You're tiny.
Yeah. Just like the leprechaun dude.
Yeah.
A friend with weed is a friend indeed. So scary.
We need to watch that one again.
So I went and saw this movie with my dad and my little sister, and it scared all 3 of us so bad. My dad said he's never been as scared. And he was like, I don't know what it was. And it might be because he married a Japanese woman.
He has
Who knows?
Japanese children now.
Yeah. So he's like, dude, I have these little meowing kids all around me. Anyway, so
Grudgeites.
we're so scared. My little sister's crying on the ride home. She sat in the front seat. I sat with my back to the back of the Suburban, just like watching, trying not to get got. And we go home, and my parents were divorced at this time, so my dad had to drop us off at my mom's house and go back to his big empty ass house all alone. And later he said he came home to this dark 2-story house, opened the door, just this echoing door into this huge empty dark house. So he starts turning on all the lights, starts checking closets. And he's like, oh, okay, we're good. Goes to his room, gets ready for bed, and he goes into his closet. He looks on the ground, and there's like insulation on the ground. And if you've ever seen The Grudge, a lot of The Grudge happens in the attic of the house. So my dad walks into his closet, looks down, and there's insulation sprinkled on the ground. And he looks up, and there is the square of the attic, and it's propped up and turned. So it's like you can see the corner into the pitch black
Like
attic.
somebody went up there and did not put it back properly.
And on the attic door, there was a dirty handprint. So he went and called my oldest sister and was like, "Get your ass over here." He's like, "Hell." I don't think he owned a gun at the time. I think he grabbed a bat and I think he might have left for the night and came back in the morning.
As you should.
Comes back, looks in the attic. No one's in there. Closes the door. Doesn't know what's happening. He didn't tell me that for like a year. The day before we went and saw the movie, I was in my backyard at night, and I looked up, and you could see from outside that the attic light was on in my dad's house.
Does he have any explanation for why that
This
was?
is before we went and saw the movie.
Yeah.
So I went up there, climbed up into the attic, turned the light off, thought I had done a clean job, thought I closed everything all fine, and left. And I was like, I am the keeper of this house. I'm keeping this house together.
Yeah, like the light was still on. You're wasting money.
Yeah. And then I went on my merry way. But it turns out I almost gave my dad a heart attack. He said he almost died. He walked into the closet, looked down, and looked directly above his head. And the attic door is open, like ajar. And he probably screamed.
I would lose it too.
I would have seized up and just started urinating myself and just hoping that.
I would lose it too. After seeing the movie Us, and this is in the previews, but you can see the doppelganger, and there's a part where a little girl is in the hall of mirrors. She comes across this one mirror, and she's looking at her, but she's looking at the back of her head. And the reflection in like I said, this is in the trailer, the reflection of her turns around and looks at her. And that's all I've been thinking about every time I go in the bathroom. Look in the mirror, and when I walk into the mirror, I just wait to look at the back of my head.
Yourself.
Yeah, try to catch myself.
I'll right after seeing the movie, I would look outside, the out front of our house, just to make sure we didn't have any Sean's or Jordan's looking back into us.
I'm feeling good.
I'm feeling good too.
Sorry, I wanted to keep that going a little more,
No, it's okay.
but I think we got a couple good ones at it.
Yeah. How about you people out there? Feeling good? Feeling safe? That's what we want. Want you to be. What?
Sorry. That night after the movie, my dad dropped me off to my mom's house, right? I'm sleeping on the ground at night, and my mom walks around the corner, and my mom's Japanese. Almost swung on her. I was so scared, dude.
She's just that'd be terrifying.
I'm like, left hook. Okay, sorry, DJ. Go for it again.
No, that was it. I was just closing.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. We hope you are staying safe out there.
Take luck.
Be good.
See you next time.